There is a move now to hold him accountable for war crimes, bombing maternity hospitals, and genocidal activity in parts of Ukraine, wiping out whole cities, Mariupol and others. Would you support that?
I mean, I think he is a war criminal. This ICC, we have not done that in the United States because we're concerned about our soldiers or people being brought under it. So I don't know about that rubric, but I do think that he should be held accountable.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis walked back his controversial comments on Ukraine as part of an hour-long interview with British broadcaster Piers Morgan. He had previously downplayed Russia's war against Ukraine as merely a territorial dispute. But we should point out his clarified stance, his new clarified stance, that Putin is a war criminal, but American troops should not deploy to Ukraine, isn't exactly that different to the position that President Biden staked out last year.
You may remember I got criticized for calling Putin a war criminal. Well, the truth of the matter is so it happened to Putin. This warrants him. He is a war criminal.
We said we'd not send U.S. troops to fight Russian troops in Ukraine, but we would provide robust military assistance and try to unify the Western world against Russia's aggression.
So DeSantis following Joe Biden's leadership, perhaps. Back with us tonight, Juanita Tolliver, MSNBC political analyst and host of Crooked Media's What a Day podcast, and Stuart Stevens, a GOP veteran of the Mitt Romney and George W. Bush presidential campaigns. He's now with the anti-Trump Lincoln Project. Thank you both for coming on the show tonight. Juanita, let me start with you. After all the U-turns and back and forths, DeSantis on Ukraine has landed on a very similar position to President Biden, despite all the hype around DeSantis on the right. Is he maybe just bad at politics?
I mean, this is a prime example of that. But one thing that DeSantis did do is that even though Piers Morgan tried to give him an out and saying, you shouldn't have used the phrase territorial dispute, DeSantis didn't give up any ground. It's literally taking a page from Trump's playbook on this to emphasize, I will never apologize. I will never say I was wrong. I'll just say I was misinterpreted. And I think that's something that we can expect a lot more from him, even though like any type of U-turn like this, even before you've announced your candidacy for president, shows that you're already operating on your back foot here.
Stuart, DeSantis is trying to frame this as a clarification, but it seems like a walk back to me. Do you expect a flip-flop like this to impact him in the GOP polls for president? Because he isn't doing so well in the polls right now, I should point out.
Yeah, I mean, generally, when you do an unofficial announcement for president and you lose a third of your support, that's not considered a terrific launch. You know, what's interesting about this is that what he put out, his statement, was a written statement. And it really is the only written statement on foreign policy that I'm aware of that this campaign has put out. And they couldn't get it right. It was clear what he said. It was two things he said. He said it was not in the U.S. national interest and that it was a territorial dispute. And when he tried to walk it back, he was saying, well, what I meant was that now that it's not an existential crisis to Ukraine. Well, he never mentioned that in his original statement. Look, there's a reality here, and that is that, you know, he's going to have to beat Donald Trump. And I don't see anything that he's shown that will show him capable of beating Donald Trump.
Yeah, me either. And we should point out that written statement was to Tucker Carlson, so I'm not sure they put that much thought into it anyways. Juanita, DeSantis was also asked about the Washington Post reporting on his time in the Navy at Guantanamo Bay, including allegations that he advised the use of force feeding against prisoners participating in hunger strikes. Have a listen.
I was a junior officer. I didn't have authority to authorize anything. There may have been a commander that would have done feeding if someone was going to die, but that was not something that I would have even had authority to do.
Juanita, do you think this part of DeSantis' record is going to get more attention in the future? I mean, there's so much more that could come out about him, his time in the Navy, his time in Congress, his time before politics as a teacher. So far, he's been cocooned in his safe right-wing space of Florida for so long.
Absolutely, it's going to get more play, especially when people start running back that 2018 clip where he directly says to an interviewer, yeah, I was giving legal advice, and yeah, I advised force feeding people in detention at Guantanamo Bay. The thing is, though, in 2018, he was trying to flex. He was trying to flex to the point that he was running his mouth a little too much, and now the receipts are there, and that video clip is going to start making the rounds. But politically speaking, I don't think it's going to get any type of traction with Republican primary voters, because if anything, they were down for the cause, all the human rights abuses and torture that's been happening at Guantanamo Bay for years and years. So if anything, sadly, this will likely score him points with that audience.
Yeah, Juanita, I do agree with you. I think, if he came out tomorrow and said, hey, I force-fed them, I tortured them, I waterboarded them, he would go up in the GOP poll, sadly. Right. Such is the nature of the GOP base right now. Stuart, another strange moment from that interview, 9/11 related. Have a watch.
Where were you on 9/11?
I was, I think I had just graduated college and was kind of not a care in the world. And all of a sudden, boom, it happened. And so I had already been either accepted or planning on going to law school. And that's when I decided to start looking into some other career choices.
Stuart, how is it possible that the man who wants to be the next Republican president of the United States can't remember where he was on 9/11?
Well, I guess it's better than Donald Trump, who made up a story that he was at 9/11 Ground Zero. But this is a very weird interview. Yes. Even the fact that, why is he doing an interview with Piers Morgan, a guy who most noted for being for gun control in a Republican primary? All of this sort of just reeks of not being ready for prime time. There's a lot of Rick Perry, Ron DeSantis, in my mind. Rick Perry in 2012, a big state governor. A lot of hoopla, a lot of people want to invent him. If you read the National Review, they're just trying desperately to invent something that's not there. And then you get out there, and what do you got? I mean, the leap from running for governor and running for president is so vast. It's really unimaginable by most staffs and most candidates. And I think that's what you're seeing here. Now, he could adjust, but I don't see any indication that he will adjust.
Yeah, I've always seen DeSantis as a kind of love child of Jeb Bush and Scott Walker, but I guess Rick Perry is a good example too. I don't know if we lost Stuart there to a technical glitch, but he gave us some wisdom before we lost him. Oh, we have him back. We have him back. Well, Juanita, what do you make of Ron DeSantis' chances for president? Do you see this man who's already been dubbed Meatball Ron DeSanctimonious? Trump has suggested he's a groomer. I mean, there's no bottom for Trump. There's nothing he'll avoid in his scorched earth campaign. What chance does he have against Donald Trump, Juanita, in your view?
Look, I still think he has a pretty good chance against Trump because of the big possibility of Trump still facing multiple indictments from the federal and state levels. And when I say that, I'm thinking of the fact that there are still Republicans who are primary voters who have long been looking for an off-ramp and an alternative to Trump. So if DeSantis can just get himself dressed and show up and not say stupid things every day, waiting for a Trump indictment could be a strategic play for his campaign.
Yes, indeed. Juanita Tolliver, Stuart Stevens, thank you both. Appreciate it.